About this. What happens when those reasons fail? Because people will fail. The biceps will turn to mush. The intelligence will succumb to the aging process of dementia. Will you still love that person? And I was like, oh, that was good, man. That was good. And it made me really start thinking about how I relate to other people. Do I do this because I can get something from somebody? So what bigoted people need to understand, and what we need to understand about bigots, is that it is not about knowledge, because people will go to that ignorance place, but it is about emotion. People feel bigoted because they have an emotional attachment. What moves emotion? When you've been in love, could you explain it? Did it make sense? It did not make sense. What moves emotions? Does information move emotions? Do statistics move emotions? Does logic move emotions? What moves emotions? Other emotions. What's the strongest emotion? What's the strongest emotion?
Love.
Love. What's the highest command of those folks who walk the Christian faith? What are the two things that we're supposed to do? And love God. Love your neighbor and love God. On these two hang all the laws and the prophets of the prophets, right? So when we talk about this bigotry, the only way that we can move or improve bigotry is to love somebody. Now I'm going to tell you how to love them a little bit later. Prejudice. I would like to offer you that prejudice is a good thing. That prejudice is good. And I'll explain that, right? So it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm walking down the street. I see 6 guys in front of me, and they're rustling and tussling with each other. What decision do I make? I cross the street. And you would say that is what kind of decision is that? It's probably a good decision, a safe decision, right? I see this. I am prejudging it. And so I make my decision based on that. Good decision. It's wise. I'm being prejudiced. Context is everything. And what's the context for that right decision? What's the context? What's the environmental scan that I did?
You're alone.
What's that?
You're alone.
I'm alone.
It's dark outside.
It's dark outside.
Bunch of guys over.
And there's a bunch of guys in front of me, right? So in that context, that was a great decision. The problem, however, is that prejudiced people take these kinds of decisions out of context and try to apply it as a law in their lives. So for example, I'm at the Empire Mall. I'm walking down an aisle. I see, using that same logic, I see 5 guys in front of me. What decision do I make using that same logic? I need to go another way. I need to turn the other way. But the problem then is when I turn the other way, what do I notice over here? There's 5 more guys. And so I turn over here. And then I find, 5 more guys. So that decision that made sense within its context, taken out of context, no longer makes sense. And so when we talk about prejudice, and people will say, well, and I want you to just think about this. I don't want you to write it down. I just want you to think about all the stereotypes or the negative things that people say about other groups. Those groups are on welfare. Those groups are thieves. Those groups are drunk. Those groups are good at math. Now I want you to search your own family tree. Do you have a drunk in your family? Do you have somebody on welfare in your on your family lineage? Do you have someone who is a thief in your family? Anything that we can say about another group of people, we can look, if we look and are critical, we can see it in our own families. We are so much more alike than we are different. We have an illusion of difference. I just want to hip you to a mystery. I was not born black. I wasn't born black. You see, when my parents met in high school, and they fell in love, and they went to college, and decided to So here's the backstory, right? So my dad is a pastor, and in our church he preached against sex before marriage, right? But there's a little bit of a problem. Because as sophomores in college, my parents got married in June. I was born in October. But we don't talk about that. Right? But I wasn't born black. See, when my parents got together, and I would hope that you guys understand the process, right? Because I remember at 7, I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, where do babies come from?" And she said, "The birth canal." And guess what I said? Okay, right? That's all I needed, right? But the more sophisticated version is that there's the egg and there's the sperm, and the egg and the sperm combine, and they create what? A zygote, an embryo. You can use the scientific terms. I say a baby, and the baby is hanging out, right? So the baby is eating what the mom eats. He's drinking what the mom drinks. He's going to see the movies that the mom is going to see. So I'm in there. I'm just kicking it, right? I'm swimming around in the pool, just hanging out. And, I don't even have to clean up after myself. You know what I'm saying? It was the best time of my life. Free rent. It's just crazy. So October 30th comes. They put my mom up in this metal contraption, feet dangling in the air, and half her dress is missing, because it's just covered, it's on the front. I don't know why they can't afford the back, right? So she's all there, and she's up there, and my dad is there being supportive, from the lobby, because that's what they did back then, right? And he's cheering, and my mom is in there, and the nurses are telling her to push, and she's pushing, and they're giving her ice on her mouth, and she's like, "Stop it, shut up, and where is Bill? Where is he? He did this," and so she's screaming and hollering, and they're like, "Push, push," and she's like, "I'm pushing," and all this kind of stuff, and all of a sudden the doctor is there, and he's ready, and I come out, plop. And he slaps me. So I slap him back. No, that's a joke. But when I came out, one of the nurses was standing there, and she had a clipboard. And at the top of the clipboard was this question: what is the baby's race? And at that time, these were the 3 options: black, white, or other. So what did she click? Black. Before that moment that she hit that check mark, before she wrote down the check mark, what was I?
Baby.
I was human. I was a baby. You see, that has happened to all of us in this society. When we were created human. God created us human. But then as a society, we decided what value we were going to put on one of God's creations. Many of you may appear to be white, but you weren't born white. You were born human. What does race do? Race has a really interesting way of tricking us into believing in the superiority and the inferiority of other people. It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility. All right? So we'll talk more about that. So it is clear that bigotry is an emotional state. That prejudice is a what? It's a decision, right? It is a cognitive process. It is about thoughts, and that discrimination is in fact about what? Actions, right? So what happens? We don't want people to discriminate. And so what we've done is that we've said to people who fall outside of the rules of the norms of our society, we said, don't do that again. So you'll have people who might say something that is not acceptable. For example, I was in a training once and a woman stood up and she said, Andre, I want to know why all the colored people are moving into my neighborhood. How do you think the audience responded when she said that? How'd they respond? Huh?
She's a racist.
She's a racist? All right, what was their physical reaction? Yeah, they gasped, just like, were you there? Oh, okay. So she said, colored people, and they went, ah. And why did they go, ah?
Because she called them colored people.
Because she called them colored people, and everybody knows what? They're African Americans. Everybody knows. Is that a term we're supposed to use? No, it's not politically correct, right? But the interesting thing is when I saw her, what I knew was that she had a pure heart. I knew that she did not have a lot of stamps in her passport. She wasn't the sharpest crayon in the box. She didn't have an Ivy League education or a fancy lexicon. But she had a pure question. And so what was my responsibility to her? To answer her question. But all too often we'll jump on somebody who has discrimination and we'll slap their hand and say, don't you do that again. Don't say that again. And so now they work to be what? More politically correct. But the problem with political correctness is that it has not changed someone's emotion, and it certainly hasn't changed what they think. So now what they've become is an undercover whatever it was that they were doing. So now they're like, okay, I still feel this way, I still think this way, but I don't want to get caught. Right? So here we have a mathematical equation. A plus B equals C. We keep trying to work on C and change C, but we need to start working on changing what? A and B. Because I'm going to tell you, if we get with A and B, C will automatically change. We can get rid of discrimination if we work on changing people's emotions and working on how they think. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to skip through a lot of this extra mumbo jumbo. If you're interested in the PowerPoint, you can get it because I want to get to some meat. No, let's do this. Nope, we'll do this. We'll come back to this stuff. So I was watching, I don't know if you've seen this show or not, it's on TV, is What Would You Do? They pose these ethical dilemmas and they watch what people will do. And so I want to do that right now and show this. It's about 8 minutes or so, so I think this is an important piece. So.